Welcome to today's web conference, U.S. Azure Partner Community Call for April. I'd like to turn it over to your first presenter, Nick Johnson, National PTS for Microsoft. Nick, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Kim, and thank you all so much for joining us today. We are just thrilled that you chose to spend an hour of your day with us. We know you have a choice where you spend your time, so thanks for doing it with us. I'm also joined today by my peer, Jonathan Gardner. He is going to be manning the Q&A pane and helping us out that way. So he's also one of the national PTSs here on the team. We also have several PTSs that are on the phone as well and across the country, and I know a lot of you work with a PTS in your area, and just want to give a shout out to all of them as well. Thanks to those for joining. A couple of just housekeeping items real quickly. We are recording this call, so if you want to catch up or follow up on anything that we'd say today, you can do that. We'll get the call posted later on this week. It'll be on our Yammer site, and I'll show you the link to that in just a minute. It'll also go up on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see that. And I apologize, it looks like Link just dropped our PowerPoint presentation, so let me see if I can bring that back for us here. Hang on one second. Kim, did that PowerPoint come back yet? All right, perfect. Apologize for that technical difficulty there. And I'm going to take over as the presenter. Good. We are also going to be talking, doing a lot of screen sharing and demos today. You're going to probably go, where's the links to all that stuff you showed about? It's all in the slide deck. And so in the comments section of your viewing screen today, there's going to be a link to the slide deck. It is over on our Yammer group. So if you want to download that slide deck, you want all those links, you want some of the materials presented, you're going to be able to go over and grab those off that Yammer group. Now, before we dive into the presentation today, just a reminder, this is part of the U.S. Azure Partner Community. We've got multiple ways for you to plug into that community. We've got our monthly call. You're here, so you know about this. We've also got a newsletter. We've got a Yammer group. There's actually over 2,000 of us on the Yammer group now. We passed the 2,000 mark this month. So thanks for being a part of that. That's a great place to not only get information from us at Microsoft, but to post questions for us, dialogue with each other, dialogue with your peers, dialogue with Microsoft folks. We're eager to engage with you out there. So make sure that you're plugging into that Yammer community. That's a fantastic place. In fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. That is one of, if not the biggest partner Yammer communities in the world, is our Azure community. And so we're very excited about that. We've also got a blog. We are posting very regularly out on the blog topics all across the Yammer spectrum. So if you want to have good information sort of at your fingertips that you can keep going back to, that blog is also a great resource to follow. And in terms of our topic today, and where we've been spending some time in the last month and a half, Enterprise Mobility Suite. And EMS is a super fast growing product within Microsoft. We've heard about that. So we are actually starting up a completely focused EMS community for partners, not just in the Azure group, but in a separate EMS place. So if you are interested in joining that, you'll see there's a link out there to join a Yammer group and a blog that we've spun up. So there's opportunities. Please plug into that. We want to start to grow that community. Actually, we posted that Yammer group, and within the first week, 50 of you found it without us even telling you. So we know there's some excitement out there about Yammer, which is fantastic. So EMS is a great place to spend some time there. I also want to give a quick shout out to our Cloud Platform University. I've been posting this on Yammer. I know a lot of you have signed up for these courses, but we've got some virtual courses. So they're instructor-led, but they're delivered remotely. They are free. The only thing that you have to do is you do have to put in a credit card in case there's a no-show. So there is a fee, a small fee associated if there's a no-show event. Because those seats are highly coveted, we want to make sure that we're filling every one of them. You can see the different courses that are there. There's some on the core Azure infrastructure. There's some on data platform solutions, architecting Microsoft solutions, the operations management suite, and of course for our topic today, there's a course about the Enterprise Mobility Suite. I showed you this last month. I'm showing it to you again this month because we've added more dates. So there's been a new series of deliveries set up for later in the month of May as well into the month of June. So there's the link at the bottom of that slide, msregistration.com/cloud-platform. Head on over there. You can sign up. It is on a first-come, first-served basis. They do fill, so make sure you're getting out there and getting signed up for those. Great opportunity for you to build up your own technical skills, to share that with your peers as well, to to get that shared up. So very excited about the Cloud Platform University. All right, so I'm going to pause there. Any questions that have come in so far on the Q&A panel, Jonathan? Doesn't look like. Oop, let me just flip over there.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was talking into a muted microphone. Is it available to partners? We just sent out 200 of our partner organization informations to Microsoft. Be a great tool for. So that's a different question. Can you please share EMS Yammer and blog links here? I will do that here in just a few minutes. But those are the main questions.
Sounds great. And just a reminder throughout the presentation today, if you want to post a question, right down in the lower left-hand corner of your browser, hit that messages button and you'll be able to do that. So let's dive in real briefly to a couple of slides. I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death today. We're actually going to jump into some live demos because I think that's what you came to see. But I do want to talk about the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And I want to talk a little bit about where we've been in the last month or so in the community, and then looking forward, a question that so many of you have been asking is, what are the demo tools available? EMS is a great product. We love talking about it, but how can we demo it? How can we set it up? How can we take advantage of what Microsoft has already put in the hands of partners? Teach us how to use that. So I'm going to show you some of that today. And so we're going to go into demos here in just a second. But before that, just a reminder of where we've been. When you think about the security model that customers are operating under, think back 3, 4, or 5 years. The paradigm was you build up your organization, whether it be big or small, and you build thick protection walls around it, like a castle. And you build VPNs, you build firewalls, you do all those things to try and put protection around it. And that worked in a lot of cases because you had information that was sitting inside the corporate network and you just didn't want it to get out. Fast forward 3, 4, 5 years now into what we're calling the new paradigm. And the new paradigm is quite simply a lot of what we do today in terms of our mobile devices, our mobile workforce, exists outside those castle walls. And people are coming in and they're connecting in. And to enable that, our IT departments have had to go through and actually punch a lot of holes in those walls to enable remote access to resources, to email, to all the corporate documents, that type of thing. And so what happens is it creates a much bigger potential attack surface. And so instead of doing a closed-in, siloed, kind of old paradigm security model, we now have what we call a distributed security model. Not only do we need to secure the corporate resources still at the middle, but we need to secure all those devices and all those users and all those applications that are happening out there in the world. And so we really think of it now as you see on the bottom of the slide, that identity is the new firewall. And identity is the place where we are going to spend quite a bit of time in terms of talking about security with customers. Devices are part of the new perimeter. And then we also have to assume breach. We've all seen the stories in the newspapers and then the headlines on the news channels. Breaches happen. None of us want to be a part of a breach. None of us want our customers to be a part of a breach. But unfortunately, breaches do happen. And a lot of them happen because identities and devices are compromised. And so we want to prevent that from happening. We want to get out in front of that, help our customers sleep better at night, and feel good about what they've got. And what we feel is that the Enterprise Mobility Suite helps us solve some of those challenges. And we've talked about this last month, so if you missed the deep dive on this, on all the different components of EMS, I invite you to go back and watch the recording that's posted out there. But right now, if you think of it, we've got 5 major pieces of EMS that really help you tell a cohesive story. You can help manage identities. You can help manage mobile devices and applications. You can do information protection. Our Azure Rights Management Service does a fantastic job of actually protecting documents no matter where they go. So if they go outside of your corporate network, if they go outside of your email system, you can still put protection around those. So if they get forwarded to someone who should not have them, you can actually protect those still. You can also track, does anyone that shouldn't be authorized try to open it? Where are they in the world? You can see it on a map. It's really a cool solution. We can talk about application virtualization and then advanced threat analytics. Advanced threat analytics is as much a protection piece as it is a detection piece. So that allows you to constantly monitor what's going on, understand normal user behavior, and if there's deviations from that on your corporate resources, it can very quickly flag those, and we'll see that here in a little bit, how you can look at what that might look like from an administrative standpoint. And finally, the last slide I'm going to show you here before we jump into some of the demo resources is quite simply, when you go out and talk to a customer, it's important to help them understand, and in this example I'm using email and productivity, but this can be applied to a lot of scenarios. It's important to help those customers understand that we have multiple layers of security that we need to be thinking about in every single deployment. We have to secure those identities. We maybe have to secure that device. We certainly want to secure that application, and we want to secure the data. And this is just a really good visual of something someone does every day, right? They log into their email on their tablet. They can go in and now they can think about, oh, that's my identity, I'm protecting it. That's my device, application, data, so on. How am I protecting each of those layers of my deployment? And so what I want to do now is shift gears a little bit away from EMS, because I think you all now have a good understanding of why it's super important. And so we're going to jump into talking about some of the resources that we have for you to go out and do effective demos for your customers. But these are also resources that are going to help you learn in your own environment, right? So if you're new to this whole EMS thing and you're like, wow, this is really cool, but I'm not ready to sell it to a customer. I need to try it myself first. These are things that you can do to help you learn that as well. But before I dive into the EMS Demo Resources, let me ask any questions that have come in that we should be aware of, Jonathan?
Sorry, I was talking into a muted microphone again. So one of the questions Dean asked is the Enterprise Mobility Suite. It seems like we keep seeing slides on application virtualizations. Can you give us some more information about what that looks like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's actually a product called Azure Remote App. And so what that does is it takes traditional Windows 32-bit, 64-bit applications, allows you to host them in Azure, and then serve them out to any device anywhere via a remote desktop-like client. But it's remote into just the application, so they don't get the entire desktop. They get just that application. So that is an add-on piece to the EMS suite today. So that's what that is. It's called Azure Remote App. Any other questions?
The other question is about advanced threat analytics demos. Is that included in the platform you're going to show, or is there other ways to do that?
I'm going to talk about that in a couple minutes, so let's table that one, and then we can talk more about that. And I will tell all of you, too, that in the months ahead, we are going to do a much deeper dive on each of these solutions. So we'll spend an entire call on advanced threat analytics, an entire call on remote app, an entire call on rights management service, and so on. So that's coming in the future. Great. So let me keep going on the presentation. And what you're going to see here is I'm going to sort of fill in this slide as we go. And I'm going to talk about 4 distinct different tools that you will have access to as partners to do these demos. Each of these links, so if you've got the slide deck, each of these links are a hyperlink. So you'll see demos.microsoft.com, EMS click-through, that type of thing. Each of those is a hyperlink, so you can go right to those platforms once you get this deck downloaded. So if you have a question about, hey, how do I get back to that thing, it's here for you. So what I'm going to do is switch over to my desktop and share that with you, so bear with me for just a moment. All right, so you should be seeing my desktop. If it hasn't come up for you, it'll be up in the next couple of seconds. So what I want to do is start with that demos.microsoft.com tool. And what this is, if you go to demos.microsoft.com, you will see a login page that looks something like this. And you'll see there's a Microsoft partner login. That's where you're going to click. I, as an employee, will use the Microsoft user login. I can tell you the portals are identical. The content is identical. The behavior is identical. It's just the authentication method that we're using. So I've already logged in as my user. And when you log in, you're going to see a pretty simple portal. If you notice the left-hand navigation, there's a home button. There's demos, tenants, and support. Home is where we are now. Demos is, think of that as sort of the scripted experience. So we're going to come back to that. We're actually going to start at the tenants. And a tenant much as you might be thinking, is what you're thinking. It's like an Office 365 tenant or an Azure tenant. It is a fully contained, fully working environment that you will have access to. You can see I've created a couple of them here already. So when you're ready to do this, you're going to log in, you're going to come to your tenants page, and you're going to click Create. And you have two options here. So you can do a quick tenant, or you can do the other options, and I'll explain the difference here in a second. Quick tenant, you can click on that, and then you'll get either standard Office 365 demo, and then you'll see a couple others. In my case, we're gonna, and for EMS specifically, we want to use the standard Office 365 demo content. So I'm going to click that, click Next, and then you'll see there's a checkbox. Don't miss this one because it's the most important one. It's the Enterprise Mobility Suite checkbox. So make sure you check that. Then it's going to expand. It's going to give you some more instructions on, hey, here's some things you're going to want to be able to do before you actually spin this up. So before you go any further on this page, here's what you want to do. You want to hit EMS Getting Started Guide, and that's going to download a PowerPoint deck, and I'm going to pop that open here for us. I'm already gone ahead and downloaded that. So before you go any further in that setup process, you're going to want to hit this guide, and specifically for partners, it says slides 13 through 18 is where you're going to spend your time. So I'm going to jump right down to slide 13, and actually 14 is where you want to start. And it's going to walk you through some steps that are going to help you be successful and make sure this demo is fully functional and it's going to work in the best possible way. And when we get to the scripts in a minute, you're going to see how it's going to then line up with those scripts. So it's very important to follow these instructions. Don't skip these. You're going to end up coming back and trying to sort of troubleshoot things if you do. So the first thing you're going to want to do is set up a brand new kind of free Microsoft account. You might know it as a Hotmail account, Outlook.com, a Live ID. It's gone by many different names over the years. The good thing is you all know how to set one up. They're free. So go set one up. They're really easy to do. Then what you're going to want is you're actually going to want a brand new, in an ideal scenario, you're going to want a brand new Azure subscription. So if you already have one, you've got an MSDN account, you've got some sort of a trial account, you can use that if you want. My one caution here is just don't use a production subscription, okay? Because this will be putting actual sample data in and that type of stuff. So don't do any production work in this section, right? This is where you're going to want something that's sort of standalone, isolated. Set up that subscription. If you're not sure how to do that, the instructions are on the slide. Then here's the super important part. It combines the previous two slides. So you're going to have your live ID that you set up, and you're going to want to make that live ID a service administrator in Azure. Now this slide doesn't say how to, this slide gives you one set of steps for how to do that. There's an easy way if you're already in Azure as an admin for the tenant you set up. So let me log into Azure and show you what that looks like. So here in my Azure console, right, over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click my Subscriptions tab. When I get to Subscriptions, you'll see I have one subscription set up here that's visible to this user. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click my Settings button, and underneath Settings, I'm going to hit Properties. And it's going to bring up this little window, and way at the bottom here, you're going to see this field that says Service Admin. And you can see this is an ID, an Outlook.com ID that I just created the other day to use for this purpose alone. This is the field that you're going to want to make sure is that ID that we set up. If it's not, click this Service Admin button at the top. It's going to give you the option to change it. It takes a second here on my subscription to refresh it, but you're going to be able to change it. Take note of that username and the password and the subscription ID. So it's this big, long, GUID-looking number, right? Those are the three things that you're going to want to note. Once you've got that set up, you're going to be able to jump back to your setup portal. You can put that subscription ID in, that service administrator, that full email, resolved email address, and then the password that you set up for it, and then you'll click Validate. And it can take a couple of minutes to go out and validate, so if it doesn't happen in 3 seconds, don't worry. It's going to connect out to the Azure APIs. It's going to make sure that it knows who you are, and it's going to say, yes, this is a good subscription, this is a good user. Then you're going to click Next. And once it clicks Next, it's basically a Finish button. There's nothing after that. So I'm going to cancel that one. Now I talked about Quick Tenant. The other option is a custom tenant. Very, very similar. The subtle difference is you can personalize it before it's created. And I'm going to show you in a minute what it looks like after it's created. You can also do some personalization after the fact. If you want to do it ahead, you certainly can. So here's where you can come in, you can personalize it. This is great if you're going to do a customer demo, right? If you like, I know who my customers are, I'm going to upload their pictures, I'm going to put their names in here for their users. This really makes it kind of very personal for them, very customized. So that's a really great option to use if you're interested in that. I'm not going to change any of those right now. I'm going to click Next. Here's where I can get a little more customized than I could with the Quick Tenant. So I'm going to put my tenant name. So if you're familiar with the Office 365 setup process, if you don't do a custom name, you get sort of just this, kind of funky looking mod.onmicrosoft.com, whatever it is, right? Well, in this case, I'm going to say, hey, we want to do EMS is fun is going to be my tenant name. It's going to check it, make sure it's all good. Again, don't miss the checkbox for the Enterprise Mobility Suite add-on. Same thing, put the subscription ID, service administrator, password, validate it. You can set up some of the personalized things, and this should be real to you because this is going to be your Microsoft Office 365 Tenant Administrator account, so you'll want to make sure you have access to that. If you have a GSXID code, if this is associated to a customer opportunity, great, put it in there. It'll allow it to be tracked through the systems a little bit easier. And then you click Create, and then you hit Create. So once you're done with that, and you've hit Create across the board, you're going to see a little tenant screen that then looks like this. And you can see mine has this little status bar, and mine's at 100%. That will take a little bit of time. It can take 2 to 3 hours for this to spin up because there is a ton of stuff going on in the background. There's stuff on Azure being created, there's stuff on Intune being created, there's stuff on Office 365 being created. So my advice is this is the kind of thing you start end of day or first thing in the morning and then come back to it in the afternoon. Make sure you give it a little bit of time. Don't expect to come in here and hit a button and have a tenant in 5 minutes. Make sure you've got some time set up. So I'm going to pause there because that is a good place to kind of say, is there any questions that have come in so far about the tenant setup process? I'm going to cover what you get with a tenant in just a second. So Jonathan, any questions that have come in on the tenant process?
Not on the actual provisioning process, other than if someone is a P-seller or a badged, has a Microsoft badged account, do they log in with their partner account or do they log in with their Microsoft, like a Microsoft ID account?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You could actually do either. Like I said, it's the exact same experience, so it really doesn't matter. There's no rules or restrictions that are changed between either tenant. Microsoft employees have to go by the same rules the partners do in this case.
Okay.
Good.
The rest of them are technical. I think you're going to get to here shortly. So.
Okay, great. Well, if I don't cover them, we'll come back to them and make sure we address those here. All right, so hopefully you're sitting there going, all right, you showed me how to spin up a tenant. What do I get? Right? That's the sweet spot because we're going to do some demos with it. So what do I get with that? Well, you get a lot. So let's jump in, and what I'm going to do is go into one that I provisioned a couple of days ago, and I'm going to start right here. So you can see here's where I was provisioning my service admin beforehand. So the first thing that it does is it sets up an Office 365 tenant. So let me actually go here, and I'm going to sign in as the administrator account. Now you're probably saying, where did that administrator account come from? If I go back, and I'm going to go back to that demos page, you'll see there is an admin at mod, whatever it is, .onmicrosoft.com and a password. Now I've changed that password so it won't work. It says this in the screen, but I've changed it. So that's the username and password pretty much that you're going to want to use going forward for all the administrative functions of the demo tenant. So back here, I'm going to sign in with that one. It's going to prompt me. And there you go. So I am now signed in, and I have a fully functioning Office 365 demo, which is wonderful. Now, from an end user perspective, what does that really get me? Well, for example, let me click on the mail and open the Outlook inbox for this user. And you can see it actually comes preloaded with all kinds of sample emails even. And when we get to the demo portions of doing all this, and when you're actually out in front of customers, it's really nice to have demo data that you can actually use, right? It's not just sort of an empty inbox. There's a lot that you can use. There's Office 365 groups. Clutter is fully functional. All those things are working. It's really a nice setup. Then you also get the administration portal for Office 365, of course, on this administrator account. And you'll see that it is, if you're familiar with it, it's a fully working tenant of Office 365. So I'm in the admin center here. Let me hit the settings page, and I'm just going to show you one of the key parts of Office 365 that it sets up. I'm sorry, one of the key parts of EMS that it sets up. If I go to services and add-ins, and you're going to see here, if I scroll down, there's going to be my, where'd it go? There you go. Microsoft Azure Rights Management Service is going to be turned on. So you're going to see that that's turned on for you. So one of the key pillars of EMS, RMS, is turned on already for you in this tenant. Great. So you get Office 365, you get some sample data, you get RMS turned on with it. What else do you get? Well, you get Azure Active Directory, because that's a key part of this. The identity management piece is set up. So if I log in, I'm logged into the Azure tenant. So this is the subscription I pointed at earlier. I'm in my users pane here in that actual Active Directory, and you can see if you did a count on this, there's like 90 users that are set up, and they're all sample users at this company. They're all a part of different groups. So if I click on the Groups tab, you'll see a whole bunch of groups set up. And there's so many of them, it takes a while to load it. But there are several groups set up. There they are. And the users are all part of different groups and everything like that. They're all sourced from Office 365. And we'll come back to some of the applications that are available too. If I click all the way over to licenses, you will see, hey, there's my Enterprise Mobility Suite license. I have 100 of them. There's 98 of them assigned. So you're not getting just like one sample user or an administrative user. You're actually getting an entire sort of sample company that's up and running. Most of those users have some of that sample data in their inbox and various things within Office 365. Very nice to use. What else do you get? I'm going to jump over here to Intune, so you'll see that there is an Intune setup as well. To get to that, you go to manage.microsoft.com, sign in with that same administrator account, and you'll see I've got Intune set up. There's policies in here that are set up. This is a fully working Intune subscription. So if you're going to demo a specific scenario for a customer and you're like, I know they use iOS version, and you fill in the blank, I want to set up a policy just for that, great, you can do that. You can come in here and set up policies. And I'll talk more about some of the setup steps here in a minute. It does have some sample mobile OSs that have been connected to this as well. So these are not real devices. Oops, I knew that was going to happen. Timed out on me. Let me go back here, see if it'll load it. No. So I'm not going to take the time to re-authenticate, but those sample devices are actually not real physical devices. Those are ones that are just available for you to use to sort of show what the administration console looks like. Best practice, I'll talk about here in a second, is to have real devices and enroll a couple of them. Then you can see what happens there. All right, so let me pause there. Any questions that have come in on sort of the what you get part of the tenant? So if you remember, I showed you we get an Office 365 tenant that's fully functional. We get Azure RMS, Azure AD, and we get Intune for the mobile device management piece. There is also the option you can go out and provision the Azure Remote App piece, and I'll show you the instructions for that here in a minute. And then you're actually going to have access to the administrative side of advanced threat analytics, and I'll show you that as well. But any questions that have come in, Jonathan?
Yeah, so we've got a couple. As far as the tenant, does it include a E5 tenant when it creates it? Is it a fully functional E5 demo tenant on the Office 365 side?
I don't think the full E5 functionality there is there yet in terms of like some of the Skype for Business functionality, but this tool is constantly being revved. So if it's not there yet, they're probably looking to add it in the near future.
How long is the duration of the demo tenant?
Good. Somebody asked the question. Thank you for whoever asked that. The tenant on here is 90 days. And at the end of the 90 days, it does shut down. You're able to spin that back up. You are able to have 6 tenants at any one time. The reason for the 90-day limit is because it is a free, fully working Office 365 subscription, you could go in there in theory and just use it indefinitely if we opened that up and use Office 365 for free. So that's why we had to put a limit on that. We also did that so that when we refresh sample data, which we're doing on a regular basis, as a partner, you're going to get the latest scripts every time you spin one up, the latest set of data, and it's going to be the best case experience for you to show to your customers. Any other questions, Jonathan?
Not right now.
Okay, great. So we've covered how do you provision the tenant, what does the tenant get you. Now the question is, what do you do with it? Like, how do you show that data to your customers? How do you show that experience to your customers? So if you remember when we started, we talked about the Tenants tab here in the home screen of the demo provisioning tool. Then we also have the Demos tab. The Demos tab I mentioned is basically the documentation that teaches you how to go out and do that demo. So it's super easy to provision. What you do is you hit create a new demo. You give it any name you want. So I'm just going to say Happy Day. And I'm going to pick which tenant I might use this with. I'm going to use it with my tenant I've been showing you. Then what you'll see is a name, a description, an audience, and some products covered for all kinds of different scenarios on Office 365 and EMS. Now I will warn you, sort of an insider tip here, you have to hit the load more button to get down to the EMS demos a few times. It kind of is a little bit quirky that way, so let me hit that. But once you get down there, you'll see that there are several EMS demos available. And there you go. So there's EMS Cloud App Security, Desktop Virtualization, there's a Hero demo, and people always ask me, what's the Hero demo? Are you showing us Captain America? No. Hero demos are basically, it covers all the different parts of EMS all in one nice cohesive conversation. So if you're really looking for where do I start, I actually recommend the Hero demo because it kind of shows you everything you want to know right from the get-go. So you can choose to add any or all of these to your demo that you're setting up. So I'm just going to add a few of them. You scroll right back up to the top of your screen and you hit Create Demo. And in a couple of seconds, it's going to spin up a brand new little demo screen for you. There's my Happy Day demo. And you'll see all the resources that are necessary to perform that demo for a customer. Or if you just want to learn it, this is the place to go. Here's what I recommend. Click the Show All Resources button. You're going to see all the different individual artifacts. Just click on them and download them, right? Don't try to do the whole go in the web and use them and not use them and that type of thing. Just download them. And that's what I've done here. So you can see I went and downloaded a whole bunch of the resources. Here's where you're going to want to start. Start with the Enterprise Mobility Hero Demo Guide. And I've actually opened that one up for us as well. And I'm just going to scroll through the table of contents here. So when you're getting ready to do this demo, you're not quite done yet. You're not ready to jump in and do a customer showcase quite yet. So here's what you got to do. Open up this Hero Demo Guide. Come to this section 1 that says Demo Prerequisites. It's on page 5 in this particular document. So I'm going to scroll down there. And I'm not going to walk you through all these. But here's the steps that you need to follow. It's going to say perform one-time manual setups against your environment in Appendix 1, 2, and 3. Those are at the end of the document. Here's what that's going to have you do. It's going to have you go in and do some things that our demo provisioning tool can't do to customize it to you. Things like you're going to need to put in your phone number if you want to use multi-factor authentication. Or you are going to want to, if you want to demo a real physical device and say you're going to do it on an iPad, and you want to use the Apple push notification service or the Apple certificates to make sure that you can enroll that device, it's going to tell you, here's how you go out and create that certificate, here's how you upload that to Apple, the Apple store, make sure that they're aware of it, and then here's how you push it back into Intune to make sure Intune can then use that certificate for enrolling devices. So it's got steps like that. You only need to do those once, and those are things the customer really doesn't need to see. In an end user scenario, of course, that's things IT would be doing, hopefully with you as the partner right next to them, but that's what that's going to happen. That's what that's going to do. It's also going to walk you through how to set up several software-based applications. So I think you can set up a connection over to Salesforce or to Dropbox or to Concur or Workday or whatever it is, so that when you show the demo to the end user, they actually see some applications that they're very familiar with. You can pick any of the 2,500 plus SaaS-based applications in Azure AD. You just need to set those up. And then it tells you how to actually prepare those devices. Here's a tip. Most of these demos are actually written around the iOS experience. We know that that's a common scenario that's out there for most customers, so all the demos are written around that. So here's what I would do. If you're going to go out and do this live for a customer, get 1 or 2 devices that you can have. And the reason I even say 2 is then you can have one that's already enrolled and is maybe a little bit further along in the process versus one that's sort of fresh out of the box, factory reset, that you can then do an enrollment on in front of the customer. But depending on what you've got going on there, enrollment, as we know, can take a few minutes. So be able to have the one start the enrollment and then switch to the other one and keep the dialogue going while we don't sit and watch sort of the circle spin, right? So that's just a tip for you. There are instructions in there for setting up Android devices as well if you want to go out and pick up some low-cost Android devices and show what that looks like, although that's tends not to be quite as common. Once you have that done, then you're ready to demo. Yay! So once that demo is ready to go, you come in and you start here with the various scenarios. And I'm going to let you guys read through these. I'm not going to read them to you. But the various scenarios are going to cover all the different things you can do with EMS and what that looks like from an end user perspective, from an administration standpoint. And then you'll see here's demo 1 starts. It's got a little checklist to give you some tips about which user should you be ready to use. If you're going to present on an iOS device, here's some apps you might want to have loaded. And then if you're familiar with Microsoft Demo Resources, this is pretty common, right? It'll give you a speaker script and actually the steps you need to do to follow that. So it'll say, hey, click here, open up this app, here's the setting you need to set, and it'll walk you through that. Now, because this is a fully functioning environment, no big deal. If you want to deviate from the script and show something else that your customer cares about, go for it. Feel free to do that. But this is a great starting point. And again, if you're learning how to do this for the first time, you're learning how to enroll a device for the first time and actually administer that, follow the steps yourself. This is sort of a great self-training tool as well. So I'm going to pause there and see, are there any other questions that have come in about sort of the preparation and the actual demo scripting?
Does the demo script, does the demo tenant have connections to System Center and show the integration with the on-prem configuration manager?
It does not today, but if you wanted to set one up, you could connect it because it's fully functional. If you wanted to set that up yourself, you could do that. But I'm actually going to talk in a minute about a different way you may want to do that versus this tool.
And then the other question that has come in, you showed Azure with a pay-as-you-go subscription example. Can you use Azure subscription that was purchased through Open, CSP, or EA?
Yes. Yes to all of those. As long as you have access to administer that subscription, you could use any or all of the above.
Cool.
Any other questions?
There are, but we'll cover down on some of them at the end. I think they're
okay.
better for the end.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. So that's the Enterprise Mobility Hero Demo Guide. So make sure you spend some time on those setups. Now, here's a little tip for you. Those setups can take a couple hours the first time you do it. If you're sort of new to the iOS certificate process and setting up a Salesforce subscription and things like that, so give yourself a little bit of time. Again, it's not something you're just going to push a button and be done with in a few minutes. First time, it takes a little bit to get used to it. Here's my other tip. During the process of setting all this up, you do end up with 4 or 5 different unique sets of user IDs for different services inside and outside of EMS and even Microsoft if you're signing up for some of these cloud-based applications. Because it's demo data, make sure you're writing them down somewhere so that when you're going in front of the customer, you've got all those different user IDs, usernames, and passwords that you need, and you know when to use them. I made the mistake the first time of sort of firing through and doing them all, and then I forgot half of them and had to go hit the remind me what my password button was. So that's just a little insider tip learned from some of my own personal experience. Now, I talked about downloading the content, so you can see here there's several of the pieces of content I've downloaded. We also, along with the Word docs, there are some click-through demos that you get access to in some cases if something doesn't fully function in the tenant or you need it as a backup. You also get access to some videos. So here is a EMS Hero demo video, and I'm just going to open it up here, and what you're going to see, let me drag it onto the screen here. It's about in this case, it's about a 28-29 minute video that will walk you through kind of what you see in that Word document. So if you want to see somebody from Microsoft presenting that and hear how we talk about it, then go ahead and watch that video. Again, it's sort of a great self-training tool. So that's just a tip that I recommend if you're interested in doing that. Great. So let me go back here and let me just cover real quickly. Here's everything we've done in this tenant, right? We've actually spun up a tenant. We've created a demo. We've downloaded it. We've gone through the additional setup steps. And now we're ready to do some learning and hopefully get that in front of a customer and show them that. It is fully functioning as well. So let me jump back. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, so bear with me for just a moment. All right, so we talked about the demos.microsoft.com. This is a partner tool. You can see kind of what it includes. One of the things to be aware of, it is active for 90 days, as you guys asked. It does require a working Azure subscription. One thing that's super important to note in the terms and conditions on it, it is not for proof of concepts. So if you're doing a POC with a customer, this isn't the place to do it. This is for you to learn and for you to show, but the terms and conditions on it are that you can't turn over the usernames and passwords and everything and just let your customer run free in there and use it. So that's something to be aware of. Let's move on. Let's talk about the next 3 demo resources, and these are all less involved. They each have pluses and minuses in terms of what they bring to the table. So the first one are EMS click-through demos, and you're probably going, what in the world is that? Well, when you get the slide deck, if you click that link, it's going to take you to a page where you're going to be able to download several click-through demos. And if you're familiar with that, it's basically a pre-scripted, pre-recorded demo that you can just click through and see what happens. I've already downloaded those because I wanted to be able to show them to you. So here's one for Advanced Threat Analytics. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. I know you guys are asking about it. So here's one for Advanced Threat Analytics. And I'm going to see if this will spin up here. Good. And what I'm going to do is when you hit play on it, you can either let it play and it'll walk you through the demo yourself, or you can hit pause, and then you can follow the prompts and it'll click you through. And then there's some talk tracks that go with this, right? It'll say, all right, the first thing you're going to do is open the health center. And it's going to say, hooray, your system is healthy. And then open the alerts and all clear. And I think you guys very quickly understand the process of a click-through demo. There's actually, I think, 8 of them out there today. So if you hit that site and go out and look at what those are, you'll see that there's quite a bit that you can do with those click-through demos. I don't typically use those as my lead-in with my customers, right? That's not the place to talk about those. Those are good back pocket things in case you need to spin something up really quickly. You're on a call and somebody says, hey, can you show me a demo of that? Maybe you don't have an environment ready. Maybe you're not equipped for that. Have these available on your OneDrive for Business or something like that where you can just pull them up, open them up, and fire through them. That's a really good tool to have just sort of as a backup. So the click-through demos, obviously they can't be customized because they're pre-recorded, so that's something to be aware of. The next thing I want to talk about is, let me jump back to that PowerPoint presentation while I'm doing that, is the partner internal use rights. So hopefully you are all familiar with those. As partners, if you're in the MAPS program, the Silver competency programs or the Gold competency programs, you all get access to partner internal use rights to be able to use things like Office 365, Azure, and EMS, as well as all the other Microsoft products in your business. You do qualify for EMS IURs, and a lot of partners don't know that. You also qualify for Azure IURs. So if you're not signed up for those, make sure you do that. The URL that's linked on the top of the slide, you can click on it. You can go right out to that IUR page, and it'll give you all the details, and then you can get that set up. Typically, you have to work with whoever is the administrator of your Microsoft Partner Network account, because they'll be the ones that have permission to go in and activate those. But once they're activated, that is a perpetual license that as long as you stay in the competency program, you are going to be able to use. So make sure you're logged in, you're using those partner IURs. If you're leaving them on the table today, you're leaving tremendous value on the table. Now when it comes to EMS, those are really nice because they don't have that 90-day expiration. They also do what some of you have asked about, is they enable you to do any customization you want. So if you want to connect it to System Center, or you want to do any additional, sort of really deep dive customizations that are going to live forever, or live as long as you want them to, the partner IURs are the way to do that. So make sure that you're using those internal use rights, because that's a really good set of tools that we're seeing a lot of partners use them every day, but there's still a lot of you that don't. So if you're not even familiar and you're like, wow, I've never even heard of those, go ask your MP administrator, ask your Microsoft Partner Network rep, like whether it's your PTS, your PSE, whatever, ask them and say, hey, I need to get started on my IURs, and they will be happy to help you get started and make sure that you're using those because they're a tremendous benefit. Now the last one I want to talk about is the Cloud Platform Immersion tools. Now some of you have seen these before. We've talked about them in the community in the past, but it was several months ago. So if you missed that or you're not remembering what they were, let me show you this real quickly. Because the Cloud Platform Immersion is a fantastic tool that you can use to do things for your customers in a lot of ways. So I'm going to go over to a website here. And again, this is linked in that slide deck, and it's called Cloud Platform Immersion. Now some of you, maybe if you've done business on the Office 365 side, you're familiar with what we used to call a MEC. And a MEC was sort of a deep dive, get really hands into the tools, and it's scripted for a partner to walk a customer through. This is similar to that, but it happens on the cloud platform side, so Azure and EMS. It also does include a lot of the on-premises technologies still because of the hybrid story that has to exist. So if you look down here, you'll see there's 4 different tracks that you're going to be able to walk a customer through. So you'll be able to walk them through their data center, unlocking data, enterprise mobility, and then application innovation. Now what in the world does that get you, right? So when you come to this page, sign in, and I'm just going to broadcast it here. The username and password is really top secret. It's the word immersion. And that's for everybody. So you just go ahead and click that. It's going to get you into what we call the seller portal. This is really for partners. There's an overview video here. It's about 7 or 8 minutes long. It's worth watching to understand more about the Cloud Platform Immersion tool. But then you're going to see what in the world does this include, right? So from a seller programs, you're going to see all the different things it includes. Net, what does it include? It includes conversation starters, decks, email invitation, things like that for you to drive a conversation around a specific scenario with your customer. It's all free to use. There's no setup on your part. This is the beautiful part, right? There's no setup for you. There's access for you, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second. There's customer-ready content. There's campaigns that go with that. And then you're going to see there's all kinds of information here about the whole program. So I'm not going to overview the whole thing today because I actually want to dive right into what does the demo experience look like, because that's what we're talking about. So if I log in, I'm going to go back to my home screen here. It's going to give you a remote app experience. So this is a remote desktop client that's now running in a Microsoft environment. You're going to be able to get access to this. You're also going to be able to get your customers access to this. So you can have, I believe, up to 30 people get their own unique username and login to this environment. So what does that do, right? Okay, are they just going to get in there and poke around and kick the tires on it? No. It's going to be a very scripted, very personal experience for you to walk them through as a partner. I'm not going to cover all these today. I'm going to zero in on enterprise mobility, of course. And you're going to see there are 3 experiences with a couple of different scenarios per experience that you can guide the customer through. So what does that look like? I'm going to click on conditional access, and in the real world, your customer would be doing the same thing as you at the same time because they'd have access to the same tool. So you would tell them, hey, click here, do this, click here, do this. Then it gives you a setup, and it says, all right, you're a customer, here's your business case, here's some of the technologies we're going to look like. I'm going to click next, and it actually gives you a step-by-step of what you're going to want to do to experience the full power of this. First step's going to say, this person logs into her Windows 10 personal device. When I click on that, watch what happens. It's going to snap that immersion tool guide over to the side, and it's going to actually open a personal device for this user. And so then if you really want to get particular, you can check mark it as you walk through it, and it's going to tell you exactly what to do. Now, when you're the trained presenter, when you come in here, you're actually going to have speaker notes in this right-hand column as well. And so it's going to say, all right, here's what you're experiencing as a customer or as an end user. Here's what you're experiencing. So this tool really sort of walks you through some very prescribed scenarios. It's all set up. It's all hosted in a Microsoft data center. It's all available for you to use for free. So I'm not going to spend a lot more time on it here today because I think you guys all understand the scripted walkthrough concept. But if you're interested, here's how you get started on this tool, right? Back on the Cloud Platform Immersion website, you're going to come up here and there's a big gray box up in the upper right-hand corner that says Intro to Immersion. Click on that. You're going to have the opportunity then to sign up for a 1-hour training. That's it. It's a 1-hour training. It's virtual. We offer it every single week. They're going to have some experts train you how to use the entire platform. And once you're logged into that, so you can say, hey, I'm going to register now, and you're going to get some really good information about how to use the program. So if you've never used that before, and if you have people that are doing any work, not only on enterprise mobility, but the other 3 tracks I talked about, go get to know that. Here's the other beautiful thing about that. They also have what they call a training environment. So if you're not ready to sign up a bunch of customers and bring them in to look at that yet, no problem. You can say, hey, I want to get access to the training environment. They're going to give you access to that. And then you as a salesperson or even as a technical person, you can log in, walk through those scripted experiences yourself. That's a super great way to get to know, how should I be talking about this? What's a good flow? How do I show EMS to my customers? That's a tool. That's another great way to do it. So that's sort of the cloud platform immersion piece. So I wanted to make sure that you guys had a chance to see that today. All right, let me switch back to the slide deck here as we get towards the end of our hour. But hang with me because you're not going to want to leave yet. So I promised to talk about advanced threat analytics, so I'm going to do that here in a second. But before I do, Cloud Platform Immersion Tools. So you'll see, again, that's free to partners. They're scripted environments. Access is scheduled. That's the one thing you're going to want to be very aware of there, is that access has to be requested ahead of time. It's not just I get to log into it whenever I want. It's simple to access, and I've never had people say, I can't get in when I requested it, but you do have to access it. We do that to track consumption and make sure that we're meeting partner demand and that we don't overstuff it so that someone can't log in and they have a bad experience in front of a customer. We obviously don't ever want that to happen. So my advice is go out and get trained on Cloud Platform Immersion. Let's see, I showed you that slide already, so we don't need to do that again. Let me go back to my monitor one more time. And so you guys are asking about advanced threat analytics. ATA is a sweet product. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch our community call from November. All right, so you're going to have to go back a little bit. The good news is I'll post a link to that up in the Yammer group here later today. But in November, we did a community call, and we actually did a deep dive on advanced threat analytics, what it is, how you should talk about it, what it looks like. So if you want to kind of know the ins and outs of that, we've got that posted for you. But when it comes to demoing advanced threat analytics, how are you going to do that? Because ATA is a fully on-premises solution and it runs in your network, we can't provision it for you here because it would be running against a network somewhere else. So we've done a couple of things to make it possible for you to show a customer what does ATA look like. These instructions are in that Enterprise Mobility Hero Guide that I showed you. So if you're interested, go in that Hero Guide, search for Advanced Threat Analytics, and it's going to show you the instructions. But I'm going to show you the net of it here. It's basically going to point you at, I think it's this one right here. Yep. The first thing is there is a web-based UI that it's going to give you access to. And this is clickable. So you can come in and say, all right, here's what the ATA a user administrative environment looks like. So I can come in and the demo script is going to walk you through and it's going to say, okay, scroll down, click on Michael here, and we're going to get a look at what's going on in his world. And we're going to see, okay, here's some of the activities that have been going on in Michael's world. Oop, he had a password change. And so this is a fully functioning demo site that you as partners can access at any point to come in and show that administrative experience. The only thing you don't get here is the ability to actually create or simulate a brand new attack, right? If you're just like, hey, I'm going to simulate a pass the hash attack and show what that looks like when ATA detects it, we don't have that turned on yet. We are working to expand what's possible with this demo, but this is the first and best experience. Now, if this one doesn't work, when you do that demo provisioning, there is a click-through demo in PowerPoint that will also walk you through it so you can show that to customers. And lastly, there is a click-through demo in the recorded format that I showed you as well. So that's Advanced Threat Analytics. It's not fully functional yet. We're hoping to get out full instructions for you as a partner if you were to say, hey, I want to spin up my own ATA environment, or create some virtual machines on premises and really sort of attack them and simulate that. Great, we're going to show you how to do that at some point, but we're taking steps to see, first of all, is this type of thing useful for partners? So go out there, use this please, and then pass along your feedback. Let us know, how does this work for you? So with that, I'm going to switch back and I'm going to ask Jonathan, are there any questions that have come in that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, we've got a couple. So is there a way to bypass the credit card requirement for the Azure tenant? For previous trainings, they've had the capability to do that. What is that? Is that possible now?
Not that I'm aware of. No, there's no way to bypass that.
So regarding advanced threat analytics, what tools are in place beyond using traditional malware signatures to protect from ransomware?
So that's a question we probably out of scope for today. But what I would do is check out the blog that I posted here on the screen. Actually, there's a blog that David wrote about advanced threat analytics. So that'd be a great place to do it, and then you can actually post comments in that too and get answers there.
Is ATA available as an IUR?
I don't believe so yet. That's one of the new products. That was a company that we actually purchased, and so that hasn't been integrated to the IUR program quite yet.
Let's see. Is there a roadmap available for advanced threat analytics today?
Check out that blog as a first starting point, and then if you have questions about a roadmap, post them over on the Yammer group, actually. We can see if we can get that, but I'm not sure if we've posted an external roadmap yet.
Okay, let's see. Can advanced threat analytics be installed on Azure?
No, not yet. That's why we're not able to provision a full demo environment for you yet, because we can't do it in Azure Virtual Machines. It is an on-premises solution today.
And the final one I have in the window now is about the hero document. It's available inside of the demo tenant, correct? Once you get
yes,
provisions?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yep.
All right.
Great.
That concludes all the questions that we have so far.
Outstanding. Well, I know we're running 1 minute past top of the hour. Let me just say thank you. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Kim's going to post a survey here in a second. If you could fill that out, let us know, was this helpful? Let us know what topics you want to hear about in the Azure community in the future. Your voice is going to shape what we're going to spend time on, so please make sure you fill that out for us. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Kim and say thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Ladies and gentlemen, your feedback is important. We hope that you found today's information helpful. Please take a few minutes to let us know by completing a short survey. Please click on the messages button to find the link to the survey, and you can access the web conference recording via a link that will be delivered within 72 hours post-conference. And I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, Nick and Jonathan. This concludes today's web conference. You may now disconnect.